Have you ever wondered what it would be like to look your own child in the face and not even remember who they are? Alzheimer's disease is a fatal disease that is a thief and steals the lives and memories of those who bear its burdens. After working for almost 2 years in a long-term care facility working with Alzheimer's patients, I became curious about how the disease works and how it affects their lives. Its implications are far-reaching and devastating. But with the advances of biological research, Alzheimer's patients and those in contact with them have a hope for the future. You may be wondering, what is Alzheimer's disease, and how is it that people are so adversely affected? Alzheimer's is a progressive and fatal brain disease. According to the Alzheimer's Association, 5.3 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease. It is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States, and currently there is no cure. The brain has 100 million neurons, and as we age, some of them die off. In Alzheimer's patients, more of them die off. I'm going to show you a slide here that shows this is what an Alzheimer's brain looks like in advanced stages of Alzheimer's, and that's what a healthy brain looks like. The way the brain dies is that abnormal structures called plaques grow around the cells. As you can see here, this is the normal brain, and this is the brain with Alzheimer's. These are all plaques, and plaques are caused by the beta amyloid protein. Now that you know a little bit about how the brain works, the plaques actually kill off brain cells. Now that you know a little bit about how Alzheimer's affects the brain, I'm going to tell you about how it affects lives. I actually, when I was working in the nursing home, there was one resident, her name was Kathy, and almost every night her daughter Loretta would come to take care of her. And every night, Kathy would sit there and cry for her daughter. She would say, "I just want my Loretta," and Loretta would be standing right in front of her. It was really quite heartbreaking, and it made me understand why many Alzheimer's patients never have visits from their families. It's just too hard for them. Another story I found was in a 9 News website. They had an article about a couple named Carol and Jim. Carol first discovered that there was a problem when they went to a restaurant, and she gave Jim the receipt to try to figure out the tip. And a few minutes later, she looked over, and there were numbers all over the receipt, but he just didn't know what the amount was, and she thought there must be a problem. So they called a neurologist, and sure enough, he was determined to have Alzheimer's disease. Carol said, "Jim was down to one word at a time. His memory was getting worse, and he was forgetting everything." This brings me to my last point. What hope is there for those living with Alzheimer's and their loved ones? Carol discovered an article in the Wall Street Journal about a clinical trial and signed Jim up. In the study, some patients receive a placebo, while others receive a drug that is an antibody to the beta amyloid plaque. There are about 800 people in the study. It began in December of 2007, and it is set to conclude in December of 2010. Because this trial is still ongoing, the results are unknown. However, the report from Carol is definitely positive. She tells 9 News, "The changes in him since beginning the trial have been nothing less than remarkable. He's remembering dates, appointments, and even things that I forget about." Despite the devastation of Alzheimer's disease, there's clearly a hope for the future. Alzheimer's disease, the progressive and irreversible brain disease with devastating impacts, has not been forgotten. Although many Alzheimer's patients forget who those around them are, we cannot forget them. If we keep striving to learn more about Alzheimer's disease and the biological makeup of it, perhaps there's a hope for the future. Perhaps the discovery will be yours.